final day of 12 Days of Recruiting. And we're kicking off our finale shows with Joel Lalgee, the human headhunter.
Yes.
And the prep recruiter. Joel, please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. So my name is Joel Lalgee. It was correctly pronounced, which is awesome. I love when that happens. I have been in the agency recruitment world for coming up to 6 years. And I've kind of pivoted a little bit recently. And now I'm in a role where I am helping out agency owners. I'm helping out independent recruiters. I'm helping out everybody or anybody that's really looking to increase their digital presence. So that's on social, that could be with video, with their website, with SEO, anything that's marketing related. I'm going for it. So I recently launched a new business about 4 months ago. Best time, right? During the pandemic, best time to start a new business.
Yes.
But it's been great. I've found some great clients and looking to continue to build that into 2021. So that is me, the human headhunter.
I love it. So did the pandemic kind of ease you into that shift?
You know, it's interesting. I've been active, like massively active on social for about the last year and a half. And it really, I think the pandemic caused it from a, not necessarily like my own performance, but the business I was at, they were like, hey, we need to, we're doing our planning and we need people on board that are going to be on board, forever or about, for a longer period of time. And really it just got to a point where I think they kind of felt, and I felt that my heart wasn't as into the business as it really needed to be. And so we just sat down and had a conversation. It was really easy. It was relaxed. It wasn't anything that was, felt forced, and, basically just said, look, I think now is probably the right time. And so I think the pandemic did spur that on. But it also created a huge amount of demand for what I do. I think the mindset of the digital world has been thrust forward a lot quicker because of the pandemic. So yeah, I think the pandemic played a role in multiple ways, if that makes sense.
So do you work directly with recruiters or with the organizations who are looking to attract job seekers?
Yeah, right now I'm solely focused on recruiters and agencies that are looking to, kind of get out of the grind of just cold call. Obviously, you're not going to get away from cold calling, and I don't think anybody that sits there and tells you that cold calling dead obviously has never made a cold call in their life. But it is getting harder and harder, and the amount of calls that you're having to make are just getting more and more. And so I think, and this is across the board, not just in recruiting, I think in sales in general, I think we start to shift into more of like a hybrid of marketer sales, and they kind of combine, and those that are able to market and brand themselves well individually, I think are gonna push ahead in sales, particularly as we go into 2021 and beyond.
I love it. So tell me, of the social networks, which is your favorite and which is your least favorite for recruiting?
For recruiting, I think without a doubt, LinkedIn is my go-to. I think it's a lot less saturated. They've got really great organic reach, so you don't have to invest anything other than time really into that platform. And I think, at least with my experience of LinkedIn, it's kind of a more positive platform. So I think for recruiting, depending on what space you're in, obviously if we're talking about staffing,
I think I need to adjust my who I follow, because my algorithms have me all messed up.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is the more invested you get into LinkedIn, and the more you understand the community of creators, and I think you start to find that LinkedIn it changes a lot. So my experience with LinkedIn is a lot different to, I think, where a lot of people are at, purely because I've invested a lot of time into building a network, building a community, and I put out a lot of content on there.
Mm.
But I've focused on, executive, construction, high level construction roles, executive roles, finance and accounting. So LinkedIn is a great place for that, those types of people. I think if you're looking at, staffing, for example, I think Facebook is obviously a really viable way to get in front of people still. I mean, Facebook will continue to be an amazing way to get in front of candidates, but I still think on the client side, LinkedIn is a great way, especially if you can become a valued resource and somebody that's putting out a lot of content that people are engaging with. It's a really powerful way, and just to get out there for free, really, without having to spend anything on ads.
Okay. And what about, say, a Twitter, or like yesterday we spoke a little bit about Clubhouse with Adam Rosenfeld. So what do you think about, those kind of newer or instant, just exchange of information where the actual return on your investment is going to be done outside of the platform, where, again, on a LinkedIn, the engagement is what keeps you fresh and what keeps you in front of people. So on LinkedIn, you meet someone, you can have the conversation there. You can talk about, the career related stuff there. Then you can give the recommendations and provide the feedback and the pluses and minuses of working with or not working with certain people. So do you think that, like I said, like a Twitter or even a Clubhouse, because, it's the new thing right now, and, we're testing it out. So what do you think about those types of places as well?
I think really it comes down to not necessarily the platform, but the skill set. And I think the skill set that needs to be developed is a skill set to be able to engage with somebody digitally. It doesn't matter what platform it is. I mean, I've set up calls off TikTok. I've got people calling me because I've linked up my website. And so I've got people going and requesting a consultation from TikTok, but it's because you're able to, I think the skill is more important than the platforms. And I think the platform, I think all of the platforms are really valuable. They all have a different flavor. So it's number one, learning, okay, how do you create engaging content on this platform? How do I build a community on each platform? Because each one's different and requires a little bit of a different content. But then going past that, how do I turn, maybe you get 2 comments. The bigger question is, how do you turn those 2 comments into a real life conversation offline? And I think that's the skill set that we just want to be honing in all the time. But I tell people, like, it's, especially with social media, I don't think you can really go wrong, but I think you have to experiment and you have to test and you have to figure out what works. And I've seen people explode on Twitter pretty quickly. And I'm on Twitter as well. And I find, for me, it's a great testing ground, actually, because I'll test a lot of my content on LinkedIn, on Twitter. And if it does well on Twitter with 200 people, then I know it's going to do well on LinkedIn with 40,000 people. And so it's learning to almost like test and be open to new ideas and be willing to try the new things. So I love that. Yeah, I think I'm all for trying things new and experimenting and getting better, really, is what it comes down to.
Wow, I'm learning so much. Rich, do you have questions?
Oh, of course
I mean, you're sitting here with your glasses and your hat.
I got the sunglasses on for Joel today because he's going to be a sunshine, bright future for 2021. But no, look at our names. This sums it up right now. We don't have the Richard, Kirsten, or Joel name. Look what we have. We are branding ourselves with names. This is just part of the marketing. I tell people all the time. I like the shark because I'm a shark. KG has her own story. And Joe, I got to ask you, the Human Headhunter, give me some insight about how it began. And I mean, did somebody call you that back in the day, or did you just think of it like sitting in your bedroom?
I think where it came from was, obviously, if anyone who's been on LinkedIn for more than 10 minutes, you scroll through and you're going to see dear hiring managers, or you're going to see someone bashing a recruiter for not getting back to them. And I think I was just like, man, why is that happening? And, the more I would tell people, like, hey, I'm a recruiter, particularly early on in my career, like, I just noticed, like, people, when I get on the phone with them, they would be so like, like another recruiter. And I obviously have worked with tons of recruiters. So we all have, so we know there's like amazing people And so like there's a percentage of people who just get the most attention, which always happens, I guess. But I just was like, you know what? I'd love to like show like the human side of a headhunter. And so with what you see with a lot of my content, like it's just really unfiltered me. And, you know, it's just showing a side of like, hey, I am a human. So that's kind of where it came from. And then, and then just as I started doing a live show, I was like, man, I got to come up with something catchy. And so my live show is called the Headhunter Hideout. And then I was like, okay, I'm running with the H's here. So let me do the human headhunter. And I can tell you, I get made fun of a little bit for it because it kind of sounds cannibalistic. But the heart of it is, I was like, the heart of it is like, you know, I want to show that human side and the positive side, and the fact that I'm a dad, I'm providing for my child. I care about the people I place. I care about my clients. And that's most recruiters that I know. And so I really want to be like a voice for that within our industry, and just, you know, really help rebrand that side of the business that's kind of got a negative rap.
Yeah.
I totally agree on that.
So I've been doing this for 20 years. Rich, the same. You know, you sound like you've been doing it for some time as well. Where did that come from that we're so bad, especially when those of us that come together, those of us that are in community together, that exchange ideas, like we seem to not be the stereotypical recruiter.
Yeah.
So where are these people? And I'm not saying that we don't encounter them, but it's like one or two. Whereas, you know, if I'm looking from the job seeker or even the hiring manager perspective, like you are, Rich is the exception. The person that gave them that human connection, the person that took the time to spend time with them, the person that returned the call, the person that tried to understand the job. Why do you think that is?
I think it's this. I think, to be honest with you, I think most agents do a terrible job of bringing new people into the recruitment world, and that's a lot of the stories I hear of, you know, people coming into the industry. That first 2 years is just brutal, and they either get into a really large company where they're segmented off, and, you know, it's just cold, or they work for maybe a smaller company where the focus is just profit, billing. And I think what it produces then is especially early on in the career, it just overwhelmed recruiters and overwhelmed, headhunters that are out there connecting with people, never following up. And it's because the mindset is so much like, well, what's your pipeline? What's the closest? All about the money. And I think fundamentally, if that is how you bring people in, I mean, because you're in a different stage. I mean, if you're 10, 15, 20 years into your career, you've figured that out. You figured out like, okay, people buy from people. But when there's hundreds of entry-level people running around, making the calls and, you know, touching base with the candidate and giving them a pitch and then saying, yeah, I'll follow up with you, I'll connect with you, then they never do. And I just think it's a pressure that is put on people within that first 5 years. And then what happens is after 5 years, if they haven't broken down and just left recruiting completely, they probably got burned out and then gone internal. And it just kind of perpetuates that cycle. So, I think somebody recently said, was it 80 to 90% of people fail in recruiting within the first year? And I was like, okay, from a logical standpoint, it costs money to bring people in, and you're telling me that 80% of people aren't cut out for it. I think there's something else going on. So I think it's just a deep fundamental issue. I think anytime there's commissions put on people, then you're almost treating people like a commodity as well. So I don't think that helps. So I think it takes people, being more visible and sharing a different way. And I think we are seeing now, at least in my experience, I'm seeing a lot more agency owners that are upcoming that aren't so profit driven. Obviously they are from a business sense, but they're also like, man, I want to impact and I want to build a brand that like people love and people know, and it's accountable for what they're doing. And so I think we're starting to see that more of that shift. But that's what I would put it down to. What are your thoughts on that?
So first, I just want to point out, because it's going to be a humble brag and me bigging up myself, that now that you just said accountable, we have, with our guests, touched on every part of TRAP, of TRAP. So we had someone talk about trust. We had someone talk about relationship building. You just mentioned accountability. And yesterday we had folks talking about having a proactive approach. So big up to me.
That's so cool.
Listen,
we did not plan that. We did not plan that.
No, we absolutely didn't plan that. But you know what? I have to sometimes, like I said, validate myself and big up myself because I know that, yes, you're doing the right thing. Yes, you got it on, because it's even if it's not every day that I'm reminded of how freaking awesome I am, that when someone like you, someone like Rich, someone like my friend Katrina, comes out and says something that is like 100% almost verbatim of what I am thinking and, what I'm striving for, then, I'm feeling good. So
I love that.
Big up. So I like what you said about the difference between transitioning, how long what the recruiter shelf life is, and how we don't talk about retention and things. And I do think that some of us maybe even inadvertently had that in mind, because I came out of agency recruiting, went into corporate, and for the folks who were like me, took that transition from agency recruiting into corporate recruiting, they've stayed recruiting or recruiting talent acquisition adjacent because they love it and they love what they're doing. And we mentioned this on a show last week, that there was a time when if you were doing a recruiter job description, especially in tech and healthcare, there was that need. They were put in there, agency experience preferred because of the skill set. And maybe that was because they didn't want to train. Maybe that was because they knew how long the real, uptick takes, or how long it takes to upskill a recruiter to get where they are, running 100%. And then on top of that, I think, especially inside of corporations, not third-party recruiters, that the talent acquisition department is either shoved under HR with people who don't necessarily acknowledge the true value of what recruiters bring to the table and how integral they are to your organization, or you have folks who are younger. And I'm not saying in age, I'm saying in experience, because they've had a number of years leading teams or managing or, being in another department, we throw them into recruiting because now the trend is marketing and candidate experience. Oh, well, let's pull this person from marketing, let them manage the recruiting team, tell them something else. Or, oh, we're technical. Our company, makes things. We need engineer. Let's pull an engineering manager who is very empathetic, who has a high EQ, and let them manage the talent acquisition team. Because, diversity, we're going to get, it's time to shake this up, to get some new flavors, to shake the table. So I think that might be some of it. I think we started down the right path, but we didn't continue it, because I really don't know, even today, many recruiting leaders, directors, vice presidents, managers of large teams that are spread out, that have been recruiting as long as some of the people on their teams.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I think that's it's mass too, and I think it's interesting. I think when you go from that transition into into working with a company where you're the internal recruiter, I think something interesting happens too, where I know I've reached out to headhunters and who have gone internal, and man, they're just mean. It's like
really?
they've some room in terms of if I reach out to them and say, hey, I'm a third party recruiter, I work with other companies.
Right.
They're like, yeah, we don't do that. And
are you on the vendors list?
and it's kind of it makes life difficult, which I think speaks to, more than anything, it's not anything personal, but it speaks to the experience that they've had as well. And I think that should even encourage any leaders out there, or owners or managers that I just think in general within industry, we just got to get better with encouraging one another and it being a positive, like it being a positive experience. And I think you can do that with social media. I think social media can play a part in that. But trust me on this one, if you're saying a lot of stuff on social media and it's not true, it doesn't matter. Like it's gotta be real. Like you can't just create a great, brand online and then it equates to nothing on the back end. But I think you can use things like social media to get your name out there and show your positive culture and highlight your employees and like really show that, hey, we're a great agency and we love our people, we love our clients, we love our candidates. I think there's a lot that we could be doing to help change that and for it to be more attractive. But it's just something else that I kind of noticed as well.
And I'm going to jump in here because I think it's about the positive mindset that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That I've dealt with staffing firms. I'm sure you have, Joel, too, where they don't want to like help you. They won't even find that candidate, but they're like, I don't want to split it with you. It's my candidate, that back and forth stuff. We need to all share. That's the bottom line. We need to share. And my biggest pet peeve is if you work for a company for a year and then you're on the market every year, it seems like these staffing firms, these big ones, they just keep hiring the same people. If you got 10 jobs in 10 years in 10 different companies in staffing, were you really productive or did you just ride the 90 days out? You know what I mean?
You're churning and burning.
I like to bring new people in and train them with a vision, because you get people after 7 or 8 years, some of them are set in their own ways. They're like, I know everything. No, you don't.
For sure.
Joe, I got to ask you a question. You're the social media guru right now. If you young recruiters out there jumping into business, we're in groups together. So many recruiters on there that I have to bite my tongue sometimes because they're like, I want to start a staffing firm. They don't even know when they start a temp staffing firm, they have to get workers' comp and all that. And I bite my tongue like, just don't open up tomorrow with a website. And how can you tell people out there, recruiters starting a business, what's some of the key things they should look for, to start up?
I think for sure the best thing that you can do is you can look at people who are successful, people who are already successful, and you want to see what they're doing and you want to understand what their journey is as well. I think the fact that if you think you're just going to be able to do something and like you said, like you think you know everything. I mean, I don't even own a recruitment business. I own a marketing business, and I had no idea before getting into it what, I'm not a marketer. So this is something brand new, but the biggest lesson I've learned in 4 months of doing it is there's so many things that you just don't think about before going in. Mm-hmm. Now I'm thankful that I have a mentor, and I've got a couple of mentors who are further along, they're 3 to 5 years in their journeys as business owners, and they've scaled and those are the people who I'm connected with, that if I have a question, I go to them, or if I notice something or notice something that they're doing, ask them about it. So I think number one, like if you are thinking of starting a business yourself, like go to people who are further down the line that you admire, start following them and start seeing what their journey looked like. How did they get to where they are? I think finding a mentor or a coach, it's super cliche nowadays to, with coaching, there's a million coaches out there, but coaching is so important. When you find a great business coach, and I'm not just talking about like, whatever, a LinkedIn coach necessarily, I'm talking about somebody who has helped other people scale businesses. Those are the people that you need to be investing into. Like I would say, like if you had the choice between investing $1,000 into paid ads and $1,000 into coaching mentorship, go the coaching and mentorship, because you're going to learn so much more than you will. And then I think it's a case of finding those people, executing on the plan, and then just and understanding too, like there's just going to be things that come up every single day that are new and that are scary. And so I think you have to have that mindset of, almost like not being afraid to fail with things and being okay with failing. Like, I think if you're going to go into something new and you just think everything is going to fall into place, that's going to be the worst place to be. So you have to anticipate there's going to be failures and there's going to be challenge. and then I think it's resources, like just reading as much as possible, reading about businesses, following blogs, there's so many online resources, but you need to be consuming that content as well, because that's going to help motivate. It's going to help educate. And then, to me, it's a case of just kind of go for it. And, I think different people do well in different things. And it's, there's a lot that you can do nowadays. It's one of the coolest things about starting a business nowadays is there's so many tools at your disposal that you can do a lot for a little. And so I think there's that was probably the advantage now that I see that probably wasn't around 10 years ago. There's a lot of tools that you can use, but to your point, it's easy to think a lot of stuff until you start to see like all of the challenges that come up. So I definitely recommend that.
Exactly. And one other thing, Joe, young recruiters always talk about templates, this mass emails blast. What's your opinion on like email blast all the time? I mean, mine is no way, but you tell me what you think.
I think it depends. And I think it depends on who you're recruiting. I never found it successful. What I found successful was marketing myself every single day on LinkedIn, building strong relationships, asking for referrals, being likable. And if I'm going to send a message, I'd avoid any kind of bulk. But I've talked to people who, for example, if you're recruiting RNs, for example, you're in healthcare and you're recruiting RNs and you have a database full of emails. Hey, I think blasting out the email could potentially work. And it depends. And I think you have to, it's a different skill set. So I think you should research how to effectively write a mass email so it still feels personalized. But I could tell you for everyone else, like if you're really looking to connect with people, what sets you apart now from anything else is highly personalized messages. You can do research on someone in 5 minutes. I used to do something that worked really well for me was I used to just do like a quick search for them in Google, see what I could find. And obviously if they'd won an award, I'd mention that. If they'd done a podcast or written a blog, which a lot of people are doing, I'd be like, hey, so you on so-and-so's podcast, instant credibility. If they speak a second language, I used to write subject lines that were in Spanish or they're in Polish, and it got people's attention because it was like, nobody's doing that. So I think it's, I would stay away from it, but I think it depends on the industry and, but personal preference, stay away from it. So what do you think? I'm curious.
For me, I hate it. I'll be honest with you. Yeah. And just like we connected, Joe, everybody on LinkedIn, I send them a personal message. Yeah. I praise them on their awards. For me, and I tell KG this all the time, she knows this. When you have a meeting with me, it's like we're drinking a beer or we're having coffee. Yeah. I keep it real. I'm not salesy. I'm just your average shark trying to help you out. And that's it, Yeah.
Yeah. I love it, man. And I think one thing to watch out for, particularly on LinkedIn right now, is there's a lot of automation tools, and there's there's companies that sell automation, and there's companies that will sell you new connections. I wouldn't go down that road. I think with content, it's the same thing. Like, I think you can hire a $200 a month marketing agency that will give you access to 1,000 blogs. Trust me on this one, content is ineffective if it's not authentic and it's not you. You're better to write a crappy post that's got spelling mistakes and grammar errors that's actually you than hiring, some company that has no idea about your industry or who you are that says, hey, we'll put out a motivational picture every single day for 30 days. I promise you on this, it's ineffective.
I love that, Joel.
I do a motivational picture every Monday, but I write it.
Well, that's the thing is like I actually do a lot of motivation on my LinkedIn posts, but I wouldn't, okay, like for example, I could say something like, don't be afraid to push into the unknown, like always back yourself. That to me is my motivation. Now, somebody's probably already said something very similar. I'm sure Henry Ford's probably said 10 things better, but the difference is it's me. And so it's going to resonate with people. And so there's nothing wrong with motivation. I think what the challenge that people have is they go, well, I don't have time. And then someone goes, you know what? I'll give you access to 1,000 blogs and you can use one. And then I'll only sell to 3 people in your space, in your area. So there won't be any crossover. Don't even go there. Like, just start with just sharing who you are, because that's always the most powerful, especially on social. Without a doubt, like I see a lot of people that are just, they've got their automated things going on. You're missing out. You really are missing out.
No, that is me. That is me telling people sharing who I am, because exactly. I started doing my Monday motivation posts at a time when I was not motivated, at a time when I needed to encourage myself. So I was sharing those with people, and then either writing, something about it. Now they're not necessarily my quotes, but sharing things with people, and adding a backstory if necessary. Like, why I chose that quote to share with you today is because here's what I'm going through, and here's how it helped me. So yeah, I was absolutely personalizing, but I'm all for Monday motivation. Like I said, it's part of my brand now. It's part of my brand now. So, it's every Monday, like I'm up searching for the quote, and then I decide how I'm going to present what you're thinking like that. I'm not just pulling images off the internet and, the same ones with that everyone else is doing.
Well, I'm curious too, like what for you is like the motivation, like well, you mentioned you started doing it because you wanted to be motivated yourself.
I was very low. Like I'm not even like and it was, it was at that point where people still do it, and I still do it. People post their wins, but I was trying to start a business and I didn't have any wins, and I couldn't be absent because then, so I had to do something. So for me, it made sense. For me, it gave me something to give back when I felt like I didn't have anything.
I love that. Yeah, but and I think that's a huge part of anything that's social is, I think if your major objective is to get clients, you're going to find it tough. You're going to have to be an excellent skilled marketer. I think if your goal from a social media perspective, and I think from a business perspective, like I just saw a quote recently where I was like, if the only motive of a business is to make money, like you failed already. Like it's gotta be something deeper. And I think social media is like that. Like I started posting on LinkedIn because I wanted to connect with other people and I wanted to motivate, and I just wanted to share, like for new recruiters in the industry, I just wanted to share with them, how to get over that hump of that first 2 to 3 years in the industry. That was my heart. And then when people started connecting with it and they're like, man, I love that. Like I totally relate to it. I'm like, wow, okay, cool. Now I'm making an impact. And that's what it was about. And I think anything like a motivational Monday, if you're doing it because you actually want people to feel motivated, then it's gonna do well. Because it's so weird. It's like, I really believe that you can feel like the heart of why somebody's doing something with social media, which is why you see like anomalies go on with like, Dogface, for example, this year doing the ocean spray commercial on TikTok. And it ends up being their best ever commercial they've ever done. And they got it done for free. They got more eyeballs on ocean spray than probably they had the whole year through any of their marketing campaigns. But it just started with him being genuine. He's being himself. And there's something magical that happens. And it's not everything is going to go viral like that. Mm-hmm. But you're going to connect to people when you want to connect to people. And I think it's a changing your understanding and mindset behind why you do it, which is, sometimes you got to get a coach for that to like just show you like, okay, why am I doing this? Because again, a lot of people will tell you, well, you've got to do it. You got to do it daily.
Yeah.
You still got to have that motivation behind it of like, I want to impact. I want to help my community. I want to help my clients. I want to help my candidates. And same with recruiting. I think if you're just in it just solely for the money, I think you'll find success a lot of times if you put in the work and you put in the effort. But I don't know how much fulfillment you really find in that. Then you're like, I think you find a lot more fulfillment if you care about seeing people do better. I always think you're just going to feel like you're actually making a real impact. And then obviously the money comes behind that as well for a lot of people.
Totally right on that, Joe. And you know what's funny? My biggest post of the year with the views was me shaking somebody's hand after I got him a job and pump up the interview like 20,000 views because I was original in the parking lot with somebody before they got their interview, pumping them up, psyching them up. That's real stuff, you know?
Yeah. Heck
this
yeah,
stuff trying to be like everybody else and making all this magical stuff and just be ourselves, you know? And I think that's the biggest thing that we're going to learn about what we had on the show today is just be yourself, people, right?
100%.
This was like
one last thing I gotta ask you, Joel, since we're on the social media thing is, lead generation. How many of these people out there say they can generate you 8 leads in 8 days? I mean, it's like, what's your opinion on that? I mean, I see a lot of recruiters jumping on these bandwagons of $400 a month, and they're going to generate you leads. I always tell people, do the research. If that person's never worked in the staffing industry, how are they going to generate leads for the staffing industry when they never did it before?
Well, I think number one, you got to look at like what's a lead. I mean, I can type in a LinkedIn right now, construction executives, and get leads. I could get 20 leads. I mean, a lead is information, right? So I mean, if they're talking about 8 qualified people that are your ideal clients that want to work with you and are ready to sign a contract, I call BS on that all day. I tell people if you want to know an inbound machine, how long it takes for it to work, minimum 6 months. And then once you do that, then it's compounding. So it took me 6 months and I kid you not, I connected with a president of a company that's in my industry. I'm pumping out content. I do 2 to 3 pieces a day. And she sent me a message that said, send me a contract. I want to work with you. I had my headline that said, you know, best recruiter in XYZ industry. So she could see my content. She could see that I did recruiting within the industry, said, send me a contract. Then that started happening more and more. But that was, I don't even think it was 6 months. That was 9 months of every single day posting 2 to 3 times a day. But from that point, you know, like right now with my business, I haven't made any cold calls. I've got 8 clients. I had 8 clients within the first 2 months. I'm overwhelmed already with the clients that I have, but it's because I put in the time up front. So anybody that tells you that you can generate income leads, they're using automation and they're playing the numbers game. So what you're going to find is that, you might get 1% of those people that you hit up and blast respond. You're also going to get 99% of them that will never work with you again because your tactics are cheap. And so anyone that says that, I will call them out on it all day because branding is a long game. Yes. And when I work with my clients, like I had a client the other week that was, I think it was 3 weeks in, like I haven't seen any results. And I said, yeah, I mean, I told you at the beginning, like 6 months. But we're conditioned nowadays, short-term in our culture. Now you take that to an extreme within the recruitment industry. It is hunter mentality. It is, I've got the phone, which is my spirit, and I'm going to kill and I'm going to eat tonight. Marketing is farming, and you cannot, I don't care how good of a farmer you are, how much seed you sow, you cannot control the lifetime of something that requires nurturing, that requires sunlight, that requires seasonal. It's a season. Yes. So anybody I work with, you got to be patient. You got to be consistent. But once those leads start rolling in and you start seeing what works and what doesn't, then you're ultra powerful because then you have something that's producing inbound. And guess what? You can always pick up the phone and still generate business cold calling. I'm not saying you stop that completely. It replaces. It just makes it easier. And
the big thing I think, Joe, with cold calling is do some research. Do some research on the company before you call them. Know what 100%. Their pains are. See if they have openings online so you can say, hey, I see you have an opening for 30 days. People don't do that. They pick up the phone and say, hey, I have bodies. Do you need them?
Exactly. And then it's like, I know when my last firm that I worked at, I restarted everything. Obviously, I had non-competes, and so I just started in a brand new field. But I'd already built up. I mean, you want to talk about views and that type of stuff. Just to give some context here, I'm a year and a half into consistent posting on LinkedIn. I generate 70,000 views a day on my content, and it's gone up. And even with the algorithm changes, my stuff stays pretty consistent. And And so at that point, when I switched firms, I was probably averaging 30 to 40,000 views a day, and I was making cold calls. But both the clients that I brought on, I think I was only there for 6 months, and they gave me a training period for whatever reason. But both the clients, which ended up in deals, both of them came from LinkedIn. Just one was a prior relationship that I had on LinkedIn. The other one, like I said, was just came from my content. And I signed other clients from cold calling, obviously. And, it's like I probably had 6 or 7 clients. But you know what? There's nothing better than when someone comes to you because they want to work with you. You talk about trying to get time for job intakes. When someone comes to you, they will give you that time, and it will be the best intake you've ever taken. And then when you start to give them candidates, they don't go, oh man, well, I don't know. I don't trust you. I don't want to even review the resumes. They are on it. I would get feedback right away because they came to me originally. So, hey,
build a relationship with them too. That's the big thing. Building a relationship
100%.
with the company. I think so many times, to wrap this up, we have staffing firms and we have the company, and it's like a tug of war. No, they should be your best friend, right?
Exactly.
The whole common goal is to have people go to work. I mean,
I love it, man. And I think that's the other thing that I think is missing. It comes back to that accountability and knowing how to build trust. And best way to be accountable and build trust is to, be accountable and be trustworthy at the end of the day. So I love it.
That's right. Look in the mirror every night and say, hey, I did the best I could do, right?
I love it, man. 100%.
The mirror doesn't lie.
Unfortunately, it doesn't lie about other things too, but that's okay.
Oh, wow.
Hey, well, if you ever need any fitness tips, you let me know.
Oh, man, I love that.
Oh, man, we could have talked to you forever. And we definitely need to have you back to really hone in on some more social media. I don't even know what to call them. They're not tips, it's just the tried and true. What works and what's going to work for you. So it is time to move into the fun holiday section of our live. Let's stretch it out.
Are you ready, Joel?
I'm ready, man. I'm born ready.
All right, here we go. Favorite holiday cartoon?
Oh, man. This is a good one. Oh, man. I can't even think of one right now. I guess I got to go with Charlie Brown, right? I mean, that's the classic. I know. Well, see, I'm from England originally, so I'm trying to remember like all of the cartoons I'd watch. No, I'm not gonna say Charlie Brown. There was my grandma used to have me watch this movie about a snowman. I don't even know what it's called. I think it's called. I think it's called The Snowman because this is in England again, so it's a really big English thing. So yeah, look it up. The Snowman. That's my favorite cartoon.
All right, here we go. Favorite holiday cookie or treat?
So my wife, she makes these basically it's like pretzel with a Rolo like melted into it with an M&M on top, and then she puts some Christmas sprinkles on there. So that is my favorite.
Nice.
He likes peanut butter blossoms, which are the little cookies with the.
You gotta have the Hershey Kiss.
Yes, 100%.
Favorite holiday movie?
That's a good one too. For me, it's the Home Alone. Like Home Alone 1 and 2 are my favorite because I grew up watching those. So yeah. And again, I'm from England, so when I used to watch Home Alone, I used to think that was what America was like 100%.
They're like they leave their children in these beautiful houses.
Yeah,
they
everybody has a house like that, and lots of brothers and sisters. It's awesome.
Favorite holiday beverage, adult or otherwise?
Nice, I like that one. Man, that's a tough one. I think during the holidays, I think really any of the time I like anything that has whiskey in it. So I drink a lot of whiskey in general, but yeah, I think like around this time I do love some like anything that's hot and like has like apple and cinnamon in. It was a go-to for me.
Okay.
For sure.
So we have a good number of whiskey and bourbon drinkers that we are connected with that have joined us on 12 Days. So we've got some great suggestions to keep us moving forward in 2021. What's your favorite whiskey, by the way? So we can add it to our shopping list.
Yeah, so probably, man, it's a great question because there's a lot here. So my default recently has like the one that I go through the most is some monkey shoulder. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. It's like kind of a mix of a bunch. But I like it because it's pretty affordable, and so you don't feel bad when you drink a lot of it. So I'd probably say right now it's probably my favorite. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. States, when we grow up in the States, it's all Crown Royal. It seems like, there's Crown everywhere.
I don't like Crown.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Joe, you ready for this one, buddy? This is a good one. Fruitcake, yay or nay?
Man, I'm from England, so yay.
That's where it came from. It came from England.
We do it way different though. I mean,
okay, how do you do it?
Okay.
So it's got really nice frosting, and then there's like brandy butter you can put on it, and like we call it, it's like Christmas cake. So. And then you can you have it heated up, and you can put some alcohol on it, and you can light it up as well. So
it sounds like a mix of what Celinda does and what what Kay does. Yeah. So I can see that, but I don't think that is the American fruitcake.
I'd say no. We'll say no on the American fruitcake.
Yeah, if you have
American fruitcake looks pretty scary.
That block of mess that gets passed around for years and years and years.
I stay away from that.
Hey Joe, if the fruitcake doesn't have mold on it after 5 years, something's wrong with it, right?
Exactly. I love that.
All right. Favorite holiday toy that you got growing up?
And so my favorite was when I was growing up, though, like Jurassic Park had just come out, and there was this T-Rex that my parents got me, and I remember it had this like chunk of like skin you could take off to see its ribs, and then you would hit its rib, you'd kind of crunch it in the middle, and it would roar, and then you could hit it. You could kind of like bounce it, and then the feet, it would have the stomping sound, like in the movie where it was like they were drinking that drink in the Jeep, and you could just see like their beverage or whatever they were drinking shaking. So that was the best toy I've ever got. And my dad actually still has it, like displayed for some reason. I think he really liked it too. So
okay, and then I think the last one, favorite holiday song.
Oh, that's a great one. Man, let me see. What is my favorite? Man, I'm a corny person, so I don't even want to tell you what it is. I feel like I need to pick out of this song.
More like what? Grandma got run over by the reindeer or something?
No, I mean I like All I Want for Christmas. That's my
Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think it's just like one year I was like lonely, and just is before I was married. I didn't even dating my wife, and yeah, I don't know. I think maybe I had a crush on someone. I would sing it anyway. I don't even want to go into that. That's just
no. That song does hit people's hearts, man. It's a good song.
It is a great song.
It was originally in the movie. What's that movie?
Oh.
Yeah, it's an English movie. I'm drawing a blank. It was like all the different families and how they were interconnected. It's the one where they have the sign and the guy comes out and he's like dropping the word. You know what I'm talking about.
How do I not know what you're talking about?
You do know what I'm talking about. Like the prime minister ended up with one of his assistants or something. You know what I'm talking about.
I'm trying to look it up right now to see if I can see what.
I can't believe I cannot think of the name of this movie, and I'm pretty sure that anybody who's watching on my Facebook right now is calling me all kinds of dummies.
Yeah, I can't even.
That's horrible.
All right, Joel, growing up in England, I got to ask you about this because my grandparents loved this show, Benny Hill Show. Was it a yay or nay over there?
I mean, it was a big yay, but that one was a little bit before my time for sure, but definitely a big yay.
Benny Hill.
Benny Hill, man, that's a class. I don't know. Yeah, and see, to me, like I really love like the British Office. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but that's a great show. So anyone out there, the British Office. So it's basically like The Office, but just British style. It's a lot more cringeworthy than the American one. So
nice.
Is it? I can't understand. Okay. All right. It has been an extreme pleasure chatting with you today. We have become fast friends. I got to call you a friend before Richard. So
he's my brother, man. So it's all good.
That's right. That is right.
See how he always ups it? Yeah. You know, he always ups the ante.
I love it.
I'm trying to have a Christmas miracle.
That's it. One more show to go, so look out.
One more show to go. At 4 p.m. today, we will have another social media recruiting expert, cool. Madison Butler.
Madison. I love Madison.
Make sure you come back, check us out, and we'll see you at 4.
All right. Hey, thanks a lot. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yes.